So I feel like I catch myself saying this really often, like the greatest tool, but this is actually the greatest tool you will ever master. The greatest thing that you ever master in your life is the ability to let go of the things you can't control. Like letting the things that are out of your hand, out of your perspective, out of your ability to change the mind or the action or the outcome of it. Letting those things leave, letting them flee, letting them miss out on you missing out on it, letting it be what it needs to be. I think that the reason that so many people are so miserable, the reason we find ourselves in such just difficult positions is because we are trying to control things that are out of our control. And because in our brain, we think that if we are successful at it, that if we make this thing happen, that we're going to be joyful, that we're going to be happy, that we're going to be fruitful. We make ourselves more miserable over things that we can't control than the things that we can. The real power lies in realizing that you can do what you have to do for what you can do and not do what you can't do for the things you will never do. Losing control over things that you have no control over, period, doesn't mean that you lost it. It means that it was regained to where it was supposed to be. So this episode is this mountain of this reality because for a lot of us we struggle with this, right? We're letting go of what you can't control and knowing that certain things in your life are going to be out of your hands, out of your control, out of your hands. And this one can come to a lot of things because um, a quick example that's difficult to deal with, sometimes loss of family members, right? Loss of people we love and care for, and we can dwell on that. Like I know for myself, and again I'm very vulnerable with everyone that listens here because I think the only way I can ever help anyone, and I firmly believe this, is through vulnerability and through our stories and through the pain that we've conquered and the pain that we've turned into purpose and the things that we've made. And for myself, this is not an easy thing. When my mother passed, that was a tough one. And first of all, my mother was awesome. My mother was like one of my best friends. Here and there, we had her obviously where there is no mother son or father son that doesn't have some type of conflict at some point because we all do. We're all human, but it's very distinctive with Dominican mothers. I'm Dominican as it gets. Dominicano hasta la tambora, right? Like how we say. And I never realized the dichotomy of a Dominican mother and their son until actually I experienced that with my grandmother. My mother was the opposite of that. My mother was very, if you are wrong, you are wrong. She's more of an Americanized, I guess, Dominican mother than most. And we always make this claim that Dominican moms really just adore their sons and their sons could do no wrong. I could like fight a puppy. Not that I ever would, but I could like fight a puppy. And my grandmother would say, you know what, that puppy deserved it. Because that's the kind of relationship typically that Dominican mothers have with their kids. My mother, however, my grandmother have that with that kind of relationship. My mother didn't have that. And there was this difficulty when she passed because it was so sudden and so rapid and out of anyone's control. And not to get into like super details, but it was during like certain things that were happening and certain things she was given, and it caused her to have a heart attack and all this stuff. And it was hard to reconcile this reality where you want to control the outcome of the situation or what it looks like or the bigger picture of this thing, because you think that if there's something you could do or if there's an action that you could have taken or a conversation that you could have had or an effort that you could have given, and then we start playing this game of what ifs. I believe that this is one of those powerful moments for me personally because it allowed me to realize that there's very limited things that I have control over. Like there's very few things in this world that I can ever say that I am responsible for. The one things that I know that I'm responsible for is me, myself, right? The things that I do, the actions that I take, the life that I live, my son, right? I'm responsible for the outcome of his life and what I do and in this perspective, my family, right, in general, all that reality. These are all things that I can have a sway in, a hand in, but I can't control the outcome of everything. I can't control the things that have happened, the past, the future. I can't allow those things to have so much authority over me because I don't have that power. And for a lot of us, we get so wrapped up in that because we think that this is who we are. We think that that's a part of our story, and we have to make this narrative happen. So you're tired because you think that you have to control every outcome. Like we spend so much time of our lives grappling with what can happen or what never happened, and we weren't the things that we weren't meant to hold. We control our feelings and our emotions and our actions based on these anxieties of what could have happened or the things that didn't happen, and we think that we have to have a manipulation over it. There's a story that I tell often, especially when we talk about healing through this, right, and letting this go. And the story about this monk, and it was three monks that were speaking to the devil, right? The devil appeared to these monks, and he comes to the first one, and he says to the first monk, he says, if you could have any gift, anything you would want, what would you want? And he responded, and he was like, I would ask that you never committed sin. And this big, like, deep wanting to change the past, and saying that I would have stopped you from sinning against God and falling short and all these things. And then the other one says, in the zeal, he says, I would stop anyone else in the future, that you don't hurt any more people, and that you're taken out of this one. And the third one comes up, and he says to him nothing. He begins to pray. He makes sign of the cross. It says, "Get behind me, Satan!" And the demon, or Satan, squeals, and he runs away. And then the other two brothers ask him, like, "Brother, why did you respond to this?" And he says one of the most profound things ever. He says, "We have no control over the past. What the enemy wanted you to do in his fake example of giving you something, of gifting you something, is that he wanted you to be preoccupied with your past. We have no control over the future. He wanted you to be so focused on the future that you created anxiety. The only thing that we have, the gift that God has given us, is right now, is the present, is the moment that we're in, is here. And the way we heal of these things and we let go of these things is that we have to realize that the moment that you do have control over is this one. It's the one that you are currently in. It's a thing that you're currently living. It's a process that you're currently going through. It's right now. This very moment that you are in is the moment that you have control over. And when you're trying to control the outcome of so many other things, you will never allow yourself to actually be at peace. You'll allow yourself to go through this torment of something that didn't happen, or something that did happen, or something that might happen, or all these other things. And you create this desire of control in a place that's just an illusion. What you have power over, however, is right now. You have power over the things you're doing now. The control is in you, for you, not in other things and how they respond towards you. Knowing that we can lose control, and then that we can let things go, and that we don't have to bask in what happened or what didn't happen, it allows us to accept where we're in now. So one thing that when we talk about control that seems to be a push factor for us is how people respond to us. Like, we will stretch ourselves thin for people that won't even look our way. Like, we'll stretch ourselves thin for people that don't care about us, or don't care about our actions, or where we're at in our life, or what we're doing. And the struggle that we face there is that we really want these people to love us. We want these people to like us. We want these people to pick us. So we cause this hardship in ourselves because we are not able to control how they perceive us. We're not able to control their emotions and their actions, and that hurts, right? Because if you told yourself that if I give more, if I try harder, that this means that they'll try more with me, or that they'll give more to me, you're trying to control the narrative of the relationship with that person. And I need you to understand that not even God himself, not even God himself forces people to pick him, forces people to love him. What makes you think that you doing more of something that they don't value is going to make them finally pick you? The thing that you have power over, the thing that you do have control over, might not be what they choose or say or do, but it is what you allow yourself to be put into. The difference is between that is that we allow ourselves not necessarily to give up, but to surrender to the truth. Because giving up is saying, okay, I stopped giving effort where effort was valued and reciprocated and loved and wanted. And surrendering to truth means that I've surrendered to what's real in that person's life, and not necessarily what I wanted, but what is real. This is where we change this narrative. This is where we change what we are trying to control, to just let it be what it is, and letting go of what you can't fix, letting go of what you can't change, letting go of what you can't force a person to feel or to believe. And I've seen this so much where we try to force people to finally value us or love us or keep us. We try to force our desire in their mind. You might be the greatest person ever. You might have so much software. You might have so much value and so much goodness. And people might see that. Even the person that you're trying to get them to see might even see that. But it doesn't mean that they have to reciprocate what you want. Just because you're good doesn't mean you're good for them. Doesn't mean that they're good for you. Doesn't mean that the place that they're in is going to be good. And this is what hurts. Sometimes we try to force people to see us and to value us, not realizing that if they were to give you what you wanted, it might end up hurting you in the long run. You might think that this thing is what you want now, but it's because you haven't let go of what it is, or what your brain is telling you it is, to accept what it really is in your life. When we stretch ourselves thin for people, And we try to control the narrative of those relationships and the narrative of that outcome. And this is everything, right? Yes, romantic, of course, but like family members and friendships. I've experienced this, and I feel like every facet, but especially in friendships. I feel like I've tried to control and to manipulate the way the relationship would work so that it could be healthy and beneficial and good and fun. But it's only come to the point where I'm the only one making the effort. And I've come to a point in my life where if the bridge is burning, I'm not going to be the only one throwing water on it to keep it alive. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to beg people to do their part of the relationship. And I know things happen. I know we go through these stages in life is crazy and all these things. I'm not saying that because we're adults, when things are crazy. But you know when a relationship is reciprocal. You know when you are the only one putting in the effort. You know when you're the only one showing up. You know when you're the only one that's actually making anything happen here. You don't have to beg anyone to be there. And the hard part for a lot of us is that we think that this is just going to happen, that we're just going to show up and that they're finally going to see the effort and they're going to put their part in. But you're only going to hurt yourself trying to do that. Learning to let go of the things you can't control, especially when it comes to relationships, is one of the hardest things you ever do, but it's one of the most fruitful. Because now you're not sitting here thinking, what are they doing? You're not sitting here thinking, what if? You're not sitting here thinking that one day they might wake up and see this. You're not creating this narrative or letting this storyline in your brain survive just because you haven't let go of the control of this thing. And I'm not trying to be negative in this reality. I'm trying to be real because one thing is that, and this is okay, without giving too much, right? These are conversations that I've had so many times, and I can't tell you the amount of patterns that it's the same thing. Like, we've all experienced this. Every human, I feel like everyone that's been in the dating scene or been in relationships or family members that aren't healthy or all these, everyone that's been in these things, there are so many relationships that we have tried to control. We've tried to ultimately hijack it, right? To make it what we want it to be, to make it what we can envision. So what we do is that we cause problems in our own heart, in our own mind. We cause this cycle of unhealedness to continue because we've created something that we think we want. We've created it, again, in a good way. It's a justifiable way and understandable that this is what you want. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be what you think it's going to be. And it's okay to let go of what you wanted, to surrender to what's in front of you, to be real with that. You have to stop expecting people to do what you would do. Stop thinking that their heart is like yours and that they love like you. And by all means, don't become cold, but that doesn't mean that you become dumb, right? Just because you have allowed yourself to not be cold, to be warm, but there has to be a parameter with this, a reality that it's not so much this one-sided relationship, but letting go of the perspective again that we've created and letting that be what it is, surrendering to truth. It's not quitting, it's surrendering to what's real. Learning to let go of things allows us to be real with the relationship and the situation and how we're growing and what we're not growing in. And I think that we struggle with this often, to let go of things, because it's almost like a superhero complex. Like, we think that if I show up more, that I can show out more, that I can save a person or save a thing or save a job or save a career, whatever it might be, that I can show up in a way that's gonna make it different. And it's hard to mix these two things, right? To sit here and be optimistic about what's possible and not be cold, but also be real about that. And this is when discernment comes into play. Is this thing that I'm envisioning, is this thing that I want, is this thing that I hope for, genuinely giving back to me? Is it creating something that allows me to feel the best version of me, to be free? And this doesn't mean that necessarily has to do something for. I'll use an example of creating content, right? Because this is what I'm doing. In this very moment, I'm creating something. So is this thing that I'm creating, is it beneficial for me? Is it going to give back to me? And is it actually something that's mutual? Now, obviously, cameras and lighting and microphone and hardware and digital outside monitors and all these things are not things that can actively in their own regard give back to me, but there's something that through my creativity and my work and effort that it produces something that I would want. So if this thing's giving to me, it's because I've given my part, but it's reciprocal. It's still here. It's still being produced. It's still helping me make something. Apply that across the board. Let's take it to a human relationship. Is this friendship that I have with this person, is it beneficial? Like, is it actually good? And I don't mean like you use them for something. I don't mean like you're using a person, but I mean like it's beneficial in the sense that we are both being brought to the best version of our lives. Are we being sanctified? Are we being made good? Are we doing the right thing with this person? Or is it just beneficial for them to have me around? Or is it just beneficial for me to have them around? Right? Because sometimes we are the aggressor in this storyline. Sometimes we're the ones that are taking it from people. So we have to be real with this reality. That is it something that's beneficial? Right? Are we good for each other? Like it's not just convenience, but are we actually good for each other? Is it actually producing something good? Is it something that's coming out of this like positive? Are there happy moments? Are there fruitful moments? Are there people around us that are joyful for it because we are fully this? And is it something that I actually want to invest myself in? And now this should have been answered in the first discernment point, right? Because if it's beneficial, if you're not the only one begging, or if you are the only one begging, then you can see what it looks like. You know that this thing is not fruitful, or you know that it is fruitful, or you know that it's one sided, or you know that's not one sided. You are able to see this. What happens when we don't let go, though? We can't let go of what we've created in our mind. We allow ourselves to be put under that, right? And we don't see this for what it is, for the value that it brings. We see it for the things that we hope it could be. We've married our desire and our hope, and we've ignored our reality. We've created a relationship, a storyline, a pattern with what we have told our brain and not what we have seen in our lives. And that's where things get a little muddled, a little messy, because you're expecting people to have your heart. You're expecting people to think like you. You're expecting them to respond like you. You're expecting them to be like you, and they're not. And that's the hardest part of this all, that sometimes the people that we want to be the most like us are people that are nothing like us. And being able to discern that and just unpack that reality is going to save so much time, so much heartbreak, and so much anguish from our lives, because this is what it is. The reality of what it is. Not the desired hope of what it could be, but the reality of what's in front of us. Letting go doesn't mean failure. It means you learned what you needed to. And I think that's a big takeaway, because we have times where we think that if I walk away from this thing, which is again, it's called the sunken cost fallacy. I've mentioned it before in different episodes, but it's called the sunken cost fallacy. Is that the belief that if you have already invested time in this thing, if you've already invested all these years and all this effort and all this time, that eventually this thing is going to happen. Why? Because you've invested so much time, so you don't want to walk away from the thing that you've invested years in. Right? So your thought pattern is, I've already done this effort. I've already invested. I've already given myself more. This is bound to happen. And for a lot of people, they end up in a rut, repeating cycles or repeating things, because they think, I've already invested here, so I got to stay here. Sometimes it's okay to cut your losses. Sometimes it's okay just to take the lesson you learn and learn to let go of the things you can't control. Letting go of that thought and that hope, and this thing would have happened, is going to be one of the greatest things you ever do. You won't leave yourself in a rut because you spend time digging it. You won't continue to feel like you're not good or useful, that you're useless, because you've allowed someone that didn't see value in you to continue to devalue you. You won't put yourself in a place that will continue to hold on to things just because you refuse to let go of the things you can't control. And then we won't continue to make ourselves the worst version of us just to fit in a place that we don't belong because we've made ourselves small. It's hard to realize this because sometimes we think it's failure. We think that we failed and we gave up, but you didn't fail. You learned, you grew, you noticed something, you learned patterns that you don't go back to. You let go of the things that were out of your control. The season for a lot of us, and I don't say this, like, again, I don't know you personally, right? You that are listening or watching or wherever you are. I don't know what your life is like. I don't know the seasons you're in. I don't know the struggles you're going through. I don't know the outcome of those things. But I do know that a season in which you do not grow in is a season that you died in. If the thing that you're in right now is not things that are giving you progress, or you're not becoming better, even if that better is just stepping away from something, just growing into something else, even if it's that minute and quote unquote small, even that is a season of birth, of something changing in you, becoming better in you, that you allowed yourself to grow in and through. And it doesn't give authority to those things, right? It doesn't give authority to those people, whatever. It doesn't give that power. It allows you to relinquish that because you've allowed yourself to move away from it. The only things that have power over us are the things that we've given authority to. We are creating this struggle of letting things go in our lives, and the thought process that us letting it go means that we've lost or that we failed, it's not going to help you ever in anything positive. Why? Because you are diminishing the reality of what you deserve, diminishing the reality of what you bring to the table. You're diminishing the reality of things that you can give in effort to make those things remain. And that's not our job to force things to be around. Like, it's not our job to force people to see what we bring to the table or the value we have. The reality is that for a lot of us, we're hurting ourselves because we're holding on way harder than we need to. Like, we're holding on to things longer than is meant to stay. We're holding on to people and to careers and to locations in our lives that are not meant to be there. So they're not serving you. It's either they're fruitful or they're frustrating. If the thing in your life is not producing fruit, and what I mean by fruit is that it's not producing something good. It's not producing something of substance. It's only making you more frustrated. And I don't want to confuse frustration with work, because work is a necessary good. It is actually sanctifying. It's great for your life. You need it to produce fruit. You can't produce fruit without work. Frustration means that it's not beneficial, it's hurting, and it's not serving any purpose in my life. Sometimes we confuse frustration with work because we think that frustration means that I'm challenging. Video games have ruined this for us, right? Where we see more enemies, sometimes we think that that's the right path, and it's not. Just because it's a more difficult path does not mean that it's a more fruitful path. And we're causing frustration in our lives, not realizing that those things don't belong in our lives. Just because you're trying harder doesn't mean that this thing is going to see you for what you are. Doesn't mean that you're going to grow into what you need to be in that place. You're not meant to be frustrated. You're meant to be fruitful. And fruitful requires work. And this part of your life that you're growing in, it's going to require work. It's going to require effort. But you can discern if it's fruitful. So whether it's people or timelines or your life, whatever that looks like, because we're gripping harder to it doesn't mean that it means more. And this happens a lot with what we perceive our life should look like. Like, we will create certain goals that, while I am absolutely for goals, I'm absolutely for discerning and desiring and praying and waiting and creating and all these, I'm all for those things and goals. But the problem happens when we marry certain goals that do not have actual benefit in our lives. So let's take an example that it might hurt to hear. I mean, it hurts all of us, because the one desire that all humans have is to love and to be loved. Like, well, that's one of our main desires. That's how we're made. We're made for love, by love, to love, right? And we're made in that reality. But one thing that a lot of people have made God over their lives is things like the vocation of marriage, right? People think that marriage itself marriage is good, it's holy, and it's beautiful, and it's purposeful. But some people have created a timeline with that thing that it's so high on the pedestal that they hurt themselves the moment they don't get it. So if you don't fit the schedule that you've created in your life, you begin to think that you're behind because you're holding too tightly to the things you can't control. So you diminish this reality. Now, gotta be clear. There are times where we are the enemy in our story. We're the antagonist in this story, right? Because we are not creating space for those things to exist. We are vindicating the past of our mistakes and giving that too much credit. So I don't want to say that you have no role in that, because sometimes you do. Sometimes you are the problem and you need to adjust certain things. And there are a lot of times, though, that we have created a pedestal for this thing, that thing is our defining moment. And everything else around our lives becomes way more miserable or way less enjoyable, because it's not within the timeline or the constraints that you've given your life. Because you haven't seen this happen yet. You have created that into the pinnacle of everything. And you think that the moment when, which I gave in the last episode, it's called the when fallacy, when this thing happens, you think that this is when your life is going to make sense. And it's not. You can't depict a timeline in the world that is timed. You have a limit here. And these things are beautiful. They are hopeful, and then you should hope, if that's in your heart, to have this. And this should be something that you do have a goal and a dream, but it is not something that you confine your life to. If you have confined your life to something that might never happen, you are never going to live life. You're going to stay in a place of pain and just agony, because you think that your life has to follow this timeline when that hits. Unfortunately, we've try to control the outcome of our lives so deeply that we don't allow our lives to actually live. We don't allow ourselves to be fruitful and purposeful in the now, because we've tied it to the when. And if you keep tying it to the when, you'll continue to stay here and not there. You will never get to that point because that point keeps moving. That pedestal is so big that you can't even reach that thing. The reason that we struggle to let go of things is because we've married the idea and not the reality. And when you start letting go of what you can't control, it's actually the most powerful thing you'll ever do. Like learning to let go of things gives you so much authority because you don't dwell on the mistakes. You don't dwell on the past. You don't dwell on what hurt you. You don't dwell on those things because those things don't have the power. And I know this sounds like it's redundant. I know it sounds like we've said it so many times and people have spoken about this, but there's this reality that if things happen, you let them happen. This phrase that people hear it so often, it is what it is. And I remember I heard that in high school. A friend of mine, he was just like, you know what, it is what it is. And I feel like, of course, it's like I've probably for like the 60s or something, so way older than us. But it just sat with me, it resonated with me because that was a good response to a lot of things that I had no control over. Like things happen, people rejected me, it is what it is. People hurt me, they walked away from me, it is what it is. People don't want me in their lives, and I've tried and I made the effort and they still don't want it. It is what it is. It is what it is because at the end of the day, I've done what I can do. At the end of the day, I've made my effort, I've shown up, I've tried, and I can't control how people perceive me or what they say to me. And I can't control their response to my actions. I can't control what they want or what they desire. But I can control what I do next. I can control the relationships that I have. I can control how I respond to those people. I can control what I do. That's all that I can really care about. So, in this life, in this season that you're in, whatever the season that looks in, letting go of what you can't control will allow you to give your time and effort to the things you can, the things that actually are serving you and purposeful and good. If you keep trying to control too many things, you'll never control the things that are fruitful. That other saying, we're full of sayings today. What is it? Uh, a jack of all trades is a master of none, right? That you can do all these things, but you become no master of anything. You don't become good at anything else because you've tried to control the outcome of so many things. Life is way too beautiful and way too short for us to spend so much time dwelling and just staying in the things that we couldn't fix or change, staying in the people that we couldn't fix or change, staying in the careers that we couldn't fix or change, the relationships, the family members. It's not your job to change them. It is your job to love them and to love you and to not continue to stay there. So as we wrap this mountain up, I'm just this thought, I've been thinking about this myself and how to leave just ways where we can be just challenged, I guess, as we go through our day or our week or wherever you're listening to this or whatever point, or maybe just stumbled upon this and you're just like, oh, let me hear this episode for once, and you got to the end of it. Good for you. Like, you are persistent, and I'm really grateful for you. And I'm proud of you for getting this far. But just as reality, that if you were able to look at things from a perspective, whatever it is today, whatever argument you have, whatever difficulty you have, whatever thought, whatever relationship you're in, to step back and look at it from the perspective of letting go of what you can't control. Like looking at that thing and saying, what in this is in my control and what isn't? And learning to reciprocate that, to respond to that accordingly, to know that if it's in your control, that you can do something. And if it's not in your control, that you can't do anything. And all you will do to yourself is cause more torment and problems. And seeing that through that lens, through the scope of what can you control, what can't you control, and what's just best to let go. So thank you again, just for being here, for your presence, for listening to this episode. And I genuinely hope that there's something fruitful and purposeful in these, and that the people that need to find them. So I hope you're sharing these. I hope you're sending these to people that you feel like might get something out of it. If not, cool. I'm just glad you're here. So thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.